Pete Woodhams, aged 22, was shot dead in Canning Town in August 2007. This followed months of harassment by the killer, a black youth. Police had failed to respond to many reports by Mr. Woodhams and his family. As usual, racism was never considered. Andrew Holland, aged 16, murdered in Farnworth, Manchester by a black and mixed-race gang in August 2007. Only one thug was convicted and no media outcry to get the rest. Racism was not mentioned. Ben Hitchcock, aged 16, murdered in Beckingham in June 2007. Observers reported a large gang, mainly black, armed with iron bars. No media outcry to find the killers. Racism was never considered. Ben Kinsella was aged 16 when he was knifed 11 times by 3 black youths in June 2008 in London. Racism was never mentioned. Billy Ward, aged 21, murdered in a Croydon bus in December 2007. Stabbed many times by 2 black youths, his father insisted this was a racist attack. Christopher Yates, kicked to death by a gang of Asians who shouted, "We have killed the white man," in November 2005. This crime was still not classed as racist. Christopher Fawkes, aged 36, battered to death by a drunken Asian thug in Blackburn in May 2009. Racism was never mentioned. Danny OShea, aged 18, chased and knifed to death by a gang of black males in Canning Town in December 2011. Racism was never mentioned. Gary and James Proctor, father and son, killed by an Asian drunk driver, Imran Hussain, in August 2008. Jack Large, aged 14, knifed to death in Chigwell, Essex in November 2007 by 2 black schoolboys. Racism was not mentioned. James Hulliston, aged 44, murdered in Hackney in July 2007. Police wanted 6 black and Asian men, but no one was ever convicted. There is no media outcry to find the killers. Racism not mentioned. Kate Beagley, aged 32, murdered near Watford in June 2007 by a black male. Racism not considered. Keith and Matt Cowell, murdered in Bishop Stortford in August 2007. 2 Asian men were seen driving away and 2 women were also seriously injured. Keith Brown, aged 52, stabbed to death in front of his family in Stoke-on-Trent in July 2007. The killer was only convicted of manslaughter. Racism was never considered. Kevin Beckingham, aged 35, an epileptic, murdered in Plumstead in August 2007. Racism was never considered. Martin Dinnigan, aged 14, murdered in Islington in June 2007. His attackers were 5 black youths on bicycles. No media outcry to find the killers, and racism was never considered. Mary Ann Linnigan, aged 16, gang raped, tortured and murdered in Berkshire by 6 black males in September 2005. The word racist was never mentioned once. PC John Henry, aged 36, murdered in Luton in June 2007 by a black male. Racism not considered. Richard Everett, aged 15, chased and caught by a gang of 11 Asian youths in August 1994. Only one of the gang was convicted. No media outcry to get the rest. Racism was never considered. The convicted man, Badrul Mia, was allowed out of prison to attend a wedding in 2006. Robert Knox, aged 18, stabbed to death by a black male in Sidcup in May 2008. Racism was never mentioned. Ross Parker, aged 17, murdered by a gang of Asians in Peterborough in September 2001. The judge did say this was a racist attack. Samantha Anderson, aged 29, murdered in Newcastle in May 2007 by an Asian asylum seeker. Racism was not considered. Stacy Westbury, aged 23, murdered in West London by a serial rapist, Christopher Braithwaite, in front of her baby son in 2008. Racism not mentioned. 2 murders on the same day. Anthony Walker in Liverpool made the national news headlines. Anthony was 17 and black, and the killing was described as racist. This crime led the national news for weeks. But the death of 28-year-old Richard Whelan failed to make any of the national news bulletins. Richard was killed by a black male on a London bus. This crime was not called racist and was quickly forgotten. Both murders took place in July 2005. Yet the BBC defended its actions, saying the 2 murders were very different, as if family tragedies can be listed in order of importance. There are many other white victims of ethnic murderers. This was only a selection.